What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the 3 brand new reveals which have just dropped as part of this week's Transformers Tuesday, 2 of which are incredibly interesting because these are scheduled to be released to coincide with the whopping 40th anniversary and literally kickstart a brand new subline titled the Comic Edition. And then the third and final reveal is the highly awaited leader class for the upcoming Transformers Legacy United Wave 2. So there are some incredibly exciting figures to discuss. Let's jump straight in and first of all check out some of these new Comic Edition figures. So up first we have Shockwave, and the box art is looking simply mental. I believe this is inspired by the comic book of which this Shockwave is based on. So we have a brutal looking G1 Shockwave with "Are All Dead" engraved into the wall. One of my all-time favourite comic book covers of all time. This is looking sick. And as we check out the inside of the box, there is a massive Optimus Prime head, which is kind of giving you guys a hint of the accessory that this Shockwave includes. So as we check out the main figure itself, this is more or less a repaint of that Transformers Siege leader class Shockwave, this time released without any of the additional armaments, which personally I'm all for. I was never really a huge fan of them. Let's all face it, the main reason why they were included was so that Hasbro could package Shockwave as a leader class. So in some ways I'm glad to kind of see them scrapped, and that is reflected in the price point. This Shockwave at the moment is retailing for $40, so a little cheaper in comparison to that original leader class Siege release. And when you consider the aftermarket prices that this mold goes for on places like eBay, personally I think this is the most affordable way to just get Shockwave into your collection. But the paint deco is looking sweet, very reminiscent of some of those cel shaded Optimus Prime and Megatron figures which were released to coincide with the 35th anniversary. That cel shaded effect which we kind of have slashed across the windshield is looking on point, and I'd argue he looks even more interesting than the original Transformers Siege Shockwave, which by the way has to be one of the best mainline Shockwave figures released of all time. Here we have an image of what they are officially calling his Cybertronian spaceship mode, but us collectors know that if you flip that bad boy upside down, you have a direct throwback to his original Cybertronian blaster mode. But again, this doesn't look too bad either because it is packaged this time round without all of those extra pieces. It looks even more reminiscent of how he did back in the 80s, and you can see some of that really cool cel shading, especially towards the front of the cannon, so that's looking pretty awesome. But let's check out his accessories. So as was kind of alluded to on the inside of the box, Shockwave is packing one decapitated Optimus Prime head sculpt, which actually looks kind of sick, and I'm not sure if maybe I'm reading too much into this, but that head sculpt is even more G1 accurate than the one that was featured on the Earthrise Optimus Prime. So I'm kind of wondering if maybe this is our first unofficial look of the head sculpt which we can expect from the Studio Series 86 Commander class. It looks really cool. It comes with a display base, a massive tube which can plug into the back of Optimus Prime's head, so this is looking to be a really cool set, especially for those who never picked up that original Transformers Siege Shockwave, and as I mentioned, at the moment is looking to be the most affordable way in getting that mold into the collection. But the next reveal, I'd argue, is even more exciting because this is technically a reissue of the highly elusive Studio Series 86 Grimlock. So as we check out the front of the box, again, some fantastic artwork, and Grimlock is literally looking brutal. So in terms of the robot mode, more or less identical mold-wise when compared to the likes of the SS86 version, and I'd argue that this is the best repaint that we have so far seen of that mold. Way better looking in my opinion in comparison to the Shattered Glass release or the Toxitron version. This is looking pretty cool, and again, if you weren't able to pick up Grimlock, I don't think at the moment this would be a bad substitute. So you guys may be wondering what exactly is different between this Grimlock to the Studio Series 86 version, and the big difference would have to be in the accessories. So we finally get the Meet Grimlock King crown, which is a must-have for a G1 Grimlock, and he comes with a total of not 1, not 2, but 3 Dinobot swords. Now again, I'm not sure if I'm looking a little too much into this, but in some ways I'm thinking maybe this could be a DLC upgrade kit to some of the past Studio Series Dinobots. If I kind of throw you guys back to some of those original releases, Grimlock, Slug, and Sludge never included their original Dinobot swords, and it wasn't until the most recent leader class Snull that we saw a sword included with a Studio Series Dinobot. I'm kind of thinking that maybe Hasbro have included these swords with this Grimlock so that you can give them to some of the other Dinobots, because let's all face it, it makes no sense at all for Grimlock to be wielding 3 swords, no matter how badass badass he looks, and he will also come with his original blaster that we saw released with that Studio Series 86 Grimlock. So I think he's looking banging. I mean, the repaint too isn't too bad either. As I mentioned, one of my favourite redecos that we've so far seen of this mold, and even the Dinobot mode is looking pretty sweet. This is definitely a must-have for myself, and this is retailing for $60, so $20 more in comparison to the comic edition Shockwave, but I think the price point makes sense. You know, Grimlock is a much larger figure in comparison to Shockwave, and he comes with a lot more accessories than that Shockwave figure, so definitely, if you missed out on that Studio Series 86 Grimlock, then this is the best way of getting this mold into your collection without paying those ridiculous scalper prices. Those pretty much wrap up the comic edition figures so far revealed. I'm gonna be honest, guys, I am super impressed. I think their redecos and their accessories are looking banging, so you can definitely expect full-blown reviews for these as soon as they drop. I believe the release date is around about summertime, so not too long to wait for those. But now we jump into some super exciting Transformers Legacy United reveals, and this has been a long time coming. You know, Hasbro haven't done a proper live stream for Legacy United since PulseCon, all the way back in September of last year. So to say that we have been anticipating Legacy United Wave 2 reveals is literally an understatement, and they've dropped a big one. So this is the G1 Universe Leader Class Sandstorm, and first of all, I want to check it out in its robot mode, because there are quite a few things which are interesting going on with this guy. So the first thing I noticed was the head sculpt appears to be kind of an amalgamation between how he appeared in the series and the original G1 toy, and I'm gonna be honest, guys, I'm not a massive fan of it. You know, recently it seems to me that Hasbro have been pushing this kind of super G1 accurate aesthetic, and I'm just kind of not getting that from the head sculpt. I mean, it doesn't look bad, but for a G1 version of Sandstorm, I was hoping for something which was a little more classic to how he originally appeared in the series, and the backpack is on the large side, but he is a triple changer, and to be fair, this isn't too dissimilar to what we saw in the show. The only other issue that I really have with this guy would be the foot design. Those heel spurs are looking nasty, especially for a modern leader class, but besides that, the robot mode seems to be quite strong. He includes quite a few accessories, so that's pretty sweet, and I'm gonna go ahead and say it, despite some of the issues that I have with the robot mode at the moment, it does seem to be one of the best versions of this character which has so far been released. But let's check out some of its alt modes. So next up we have the helicopter mode, and this is looking wicked. I think likely to be one of the best modes this figure has. It literally looks more or less spot on to how it originally appeared back in G1, and it includes a really interesting accessory, that which at the moment is being officially titled as a stretcher. So this guy also includes a proper piece of string, so you can kind of have this cage or this stretcher dangling down from the helicopter mode, so that's not looking too bad. But as we all know, G1 Sandstorm is a triple changer, so let's now check out the Dune Buggy mode. And the second I kind of looked at these images, I'm thinking to myself, could Hasbro maybe use this mold and retool it into that upcoming Studio Series 86 Springer? You know, their alt modes are kind of similar in the sense that Springer turns into a land-based vehicle and then transforms into kind of an aircraft. Could they maybe do something a little funky here to the mold to make this into a Springer? I guess only time will tell, but one thing which I really like is how that cage, that stretcher, kind of becomes the roll cage for this Dune Buggy mode. That is such a sick reuse of some of the extra accessories. So yeah, I think he looks pretty impressive so far. There are some killer product shots of this Sandstorm, which I think looks so much better than some of the more recent official product shots that Hasbro have been releasing. So I am definitely excited to get my hands on this guy. It really does just now beg the question, when are we going to see that upcoming Cybertron Starscream? I've been anticipating that release more so than I think anything from Legacy United Wave 2, and right now I think with the exception of Core Class, that is the only figure which we are left to see. So some very interesting reveals today, and mostly super exciting times ahead. I mean, those two comic edition figures for repaints I think are looking banging, and it's really cool to see Hasbro pull out all of the stops when it comes to their accessories, especially in the case of that leader class Grimlock. And Sandstorm mostly I think looks cool. A few odd design choices, especially when it comes to the head sculpt and kind of the heel spurs of the figure, but besides that, he is looking to be a very promising triple changer, and with his release I'm hoping that the next triple changer we see will be an Octane. It would be so sweet to have an Octane to stack up against the likes of Astro Train and Blitzwing, because those two were pretty awesome triple changers. So I would love to get your thoughts down in the comment section below. Out of everything we've discussed today, what are you guys most excited for, and what do you think of this upcoming comic edition subline? I want to thank you all so much for watching, and until my next video, transform and roll out!